Hey, welcome to episode number 2020 of the Ask Sri Vishwanath Vedanta show. And in today's episode, we are going to cover how to increase your Shraddha. And this is the second section. So if you have not watched the first section, I highly encourage you to do that. So in yesterday's episode, we talked about how the little boy Nachiketa, he went to the abode of Yama, and Yama asked him three boons. And Nachiketa, his third boon was, what happens after death? And Yama gave him all the incentives, and he gave him everything to distract his attention. Said, "Don't ask this question." But Nachiketa kept saying, "I want to know what happens after death." And after giving him all the incentives, and still Nachiketa did not budge from that question, Yama proceeded to answer Nachiketa, what happens after death? So this dialogue between Yama and Nachiketa is totally metaphysical. It talks of only one thing, Atman. And here is what Yama said. Atman is the only existence in your body that is immaterial. Only existence. So that is called Sat. It's immaterial, means it's not manufactured. And these are the exact words. It's not a compound. Atman is the only existence in your body that is immaterial. Since it's immaterial, it's not a compound. It's not two. Since it's not a compound, it's not bound by the law of cause and effect. Since it's not bound by the law of cause and effect, it is imperishable. And since it's imperishable, it does not have a beginning and end. And since it does not have a beginning and end, it's eternal and it's all pervasive. So that so 5 sentences, it covers the whole of Upanishad. And I don't want to go completely on a metaphysical route, because you can go to www.magicofgod.com and I've made it simple for you. But here's the thing. Vivekananda processes this more simply. He says, to whosoever the Atman desires, by him the Atman is attained, unto him the Atman discovers itself. This is very important. The Atman has to desire you. Everyone is saying, oh, I'm going to go after light, this light, that light. God has to desire you, because he's eternal. He's all pervasive. They say, oh, I'm going to pray to Shiva with Krishna. He's everywhere. What have he or she, Goddess Kali, has to decide? So whosoever the Atman desires, by him the Atman is attained, unto him the Atman discovers himself. The extremely beloved is attained by him who is extremely beloved to the Atman. He becomes the extremely beloved of the Atman. So that the extremely beloved reaches the goal, I give the direction to their will to come closer to me, says Vivekananda. It's very beautiful. That means God has to desire you. You have to know that first. That is the first thing in Shraddha to learn. God has to desire you. Your Atman has to desire you. You can learn all the metaphysical things. You can do all the prayer, devotion, meditation, and all the 100 million things. But if you don't realize that God has to desire you, this is so very powerful. Whosoever the Atman desires, by him the Atman is attained. So we have to know what the Atman desires. The Atman is asanga. It's not attached to any field. Pleasure, pain, this, that, whatever. It's asanga. So what it requires from you is vairagya, to renounce the field. But for the foremost, the most important quality is worship. Worship both during good times and during bad times. So you have to begin your day by worship. Worship should be like your breath. That is the first element. It should be like your breath. No, I pray. No, worship. It's like your breath. Whether you are going good days or bad days or whatever, whether it's rainy season or whatever winter, worship. Whosoever the Atman desires. So this is a very, very important. You have to Worship is the link between you and God. And that is called parabhakti, not bhakti. Bhakti is the ordinary devotion. Okay, in good days, okay, you'll pray a lot or whatever it is. Parabhakti is, like Vivekananda said, like oil poured from one vessel to another in an unbroken stream. Like you're constantly meaning not 24 hours. Whenever you remember, you're always in the worship mode. And we may forget, that's fine. But the worship mode is just like, we switch on the mobile phone. It's on throughout the day. You may not take certain calls, but the worship mode should be on throughout the day. You see, this is very, very important. So worship. And who will give you the worship? So Ramakrishna gives here a beautiful example. Before that, I'll tell you a beautiful story by Adi Shankaracharya. So there is this poem by song by Adi Shankaracharya to goddess Kali. It's called Bhavani Tvam. Durga, goddess Kali, all they say. Bhavani Tvam Dase Mahi Vitira. So it's a beautiful song. So the story is a person goes to this temple. Bhavani is the name of goddess Durga. And he says Bhavani Tvam. Now, when you say Bhavani Tvam, what it means is, in one level, is salutations to you, O goddess Bhavani, which is the name of goddess Durga, a form of the goddess. That is one, which is what bhakti, normal people do. But the other metaphysical portion of that is, Bhavani Tvam means, make me like you, O goddess Kali, make me Brahman. He who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. So he said that from that idea, Bhavani Tvam. And Adi Shankaracharya says, goddess Bhavani became so happy, she made her like him. Now this is very important. God has to desire you. So she has to give the lift. Bhavani Tvam. So make me like you, he said to her, and she made him like him. God has to give you the lift. She gave him the lift. You and I can pray, meditate, do all the thing, but God has to give the lift. And Ramakrishna says this beautifully. He says, the gardener, he exposes the roots of the rose, Basra rose, he says, so that it can get the dew and blossom. So he says, the gardener gives you the lift. So God, in this case, Bhavani, gave the devotee a lift and elevated him, Ramakrishna says, to her status. So God elevates you to his status, which is the Atman. I am the Atman resident in the inner self of all beings. So that our first job is to worship, knowing that God has to decide you. And the second is, we have to know that God is going to elevate you. That we should know. Bhavani Tvam. Ramakrishna says, she elevates you to her position, because you and I cannot get there. Atman, because God is always seated in the Atman. I am the Atman. We need that lift, like the gardener exposes the rose flower. Ramakrishna gives another example where the servant is serving the master for long years, and then the master one day says, come and sit in my place, in my seat. And the servant says, no, I am not entitled. But then he says, come and sit. And he makes him sit in his place, and he makes him see everything from that angle. You see, that is very, very important. That's why for Shraddha is, God has to desire you, and worship is the thing. And she will give you the lift. So why are you worrying? You keep increasing the worship. Keep the mode on. That's why Krishna says, towards all the beings I am the same. I hate none nor hold anyone dear. Those who worship me with devotion live in me and I in them. So what Krishna says is, towards all beings I am the same. I am always seated in the Atman. You will always find me there. If you go down to various other fields, pleasure, pain, anger, hatred, love, success, you will find your own Atman plus the false visualization. So he gives a beautiful example. Krishna says is that fire, those who go close to fire will get the heat of it, and so they will be able to enjoy the warmth if it's a cold thing. But those who stay away from fire cannot get the benefit of the fire. Fire is not going everywhere, it's always there. But if you want the benefit, you have to go there. So Krishna says, though towards all beings I am the same, I hate none nor hold anyone. If you come to the Atman, you will get all the benefits of the Atman. If you are in a field where you get stuck up in your own field, you will lose my presence and you will be involved in your own false visualization. So this is the reason people do not get the benefit of Shraddha, because they mistake all the, I did this, I did that. You do whatever you want, Krishna says. Even if a man of wicked nature worships me exclusively, he is indeed deemed worthy for his resolutions. Right? Krishna says, your wickedness, all that is not a criteria. Criteria is Shraddha. Do you get that thing, that worship? Worship mode should be on, always on. You may forget it, but it should always be on. That you should make sure that that is on always. It should be parabhakti. And the second is, you should know God is going to give you the lift. He's already giving you the lift by making you pray or watch this video or do whatever. Like, he's already giving you the lift, but you have to acknowledge that. See, because of these two reasons, people mess up on the Shraddha, make their own thing, do whatever ritual they want, do, pray whatever prayer they want, do whatever meditation they want, and they say they are not getting the benefit of God because they don't get these basic things. God has to desire you and he will give you the lift. So it's so easy for us. We have to be in the game. So you be in the game. And that's what it is. For more things, you can go to www.magicofgod.com. And tomorrow, I will share with you some more secrets on increasing Shraddha. Thank you, and God bless.